Ad astra per aspera, to the stars through difficulties. And let's see. Happy Kansas Day. Kansas is 162 today. Founded, it was brought into the state, brought into the Union in 1861. Okay. Yeah, let's see. Kansas Day, as an annual celebration of Kansas statehood, is fairly unique among all the other states. The day is fondly remembered by adults who grew up in Kansas to those who have moved to other states or countries. This pride in being a Kansan was a part of Kansas Day celebrations from its beginning, as shown in the piece below. The following is taken from an article originally published in the January 1932 issue of the Kansas Teacher and Western School Journal. The article, The Origin of Kansas Day, was written by Esther Clark Hill, Kansas Historical Society. Kansas Day was born in Paola in 1877 in the Paola Public School. 15 or 20 youngsters were studying United States history in Alexander LeGrand Copley's classroom. And on January 8th, 1877, the lesson happened to be the Battle of New Orleans. Intense interest was created in the class by the fact that 62 years before that, to the very hour, General Jackson's riflemen were were peppering the British redcoats from behind the cotton bales. The whole school awoke to patriotism on that anniversary and decided to celebrate the pride in Kansas and its victories of peace. Hey, Brandy! Okay, you can watch on the replay too. So it was announced that an afternoon would be set apart for the study of Kansas, its geography, its history, and its resources. And the afternoon selected was January 29th, 1877. For 2 weeks, the students were busy outside of school getting together every available piece of information concerning Kansas. They searched encyclopedias, plied parents with questions, and stirred the whole community to furnish local history, statistics, and valuable and interesting facts bearing upon that one subject. The eventful day came. The blackboard extended 3/4 of the way around the room and was fairly covered by the pupils with careful drawing of the state seal and maps of the state, the county, and township. The motto of the state was conspicuous in red and blue chalk. The banner counties in wheat, corn, oats, hay, cattle, hogs, horses, sheep, and even mules were on the board. On the board were also the Kansas songs. One was Whittler's Song of the Kansas Immigrant. Another was Lucy Larcom's The Call to Kansas. Then there were short speeches by 2 or 3 boys, extracts from Horace Greeley and Charles Sumner, questions in Kansas history asked by one side of the room and answered by the other. First things in Kansas, such as the first printing press, the first school, the first railroad, the first capital, the first newspaper. There was one mistake. The exercises should not have been held in the classrooms, but in the largest hall in town to accommodate the parents and friends who wanted to get in but couldn't. In 1879, Copley became superintendent of the schools in Wichita, and of course, the day was appropriately observed there. Meanwhile, it was his hobby to attend the county teachers' institutes and at the state teachers association meetings held then every year in Topeka at the Christmas holidays, and encouraged the teachers to celebrate Kansas Day. A description of Copley's celebration appeared in the Kansas Educationalist. Newspapers of the state described the celebration as a Kansas institution. The day after Thanksgiving in 1882, the first Northwestern Teachers Association was held in Beloit. It was then and there decided that a small pamphlet should be published giving the concise information about the state songs and sample speeches suitable for the proper observance of the day. Del Valentine of the Clay Center Dispatch printed the book. It was called Kansas Day and contained 32 pages. 2,000 copies were printed. At the next State Teachers Association in Topeka, the booklet was prominent featured. Every teacher took home one or more copies. Purchased copies went to 65 counties in the state. For a short time, the booklet was used as a textbook in the state normal school at Emporia. Kansas Day continues to grow for more than 130 years. Today, it is celebrated by teachers and students across the state. You have a good evening and see you next week, Brandy. Okay, Laura Ingalls Wilder, author, born February 7th, 1867, Pepin, Wisconsin, married Almanzo Wilder, August 25th, 1885, De Smet, Dakota Territory, died February 10th, 1957, Mansfield, Missouri. Born February 7th, 1867, near Pepin, Wisconsin, Laura Ingalls Wilder was inspired to write stories about her family's life on the frontier, which include living in a cabin in southeast Kansas. These stories became the popular Little House series of children's books. At first, the Ingalls family lived in a log cabin in the big woods of Wisconsin. The family moved briefly in Charlton County, Missouri in 1868. The Homestead Act of 1862 had made available 160 acres to an eligible person in return for 5 years residency and $18 in filing fees. The opportunity lured the Ingalls family in fall 1869 to Montgomery County, Kansas. Laura would write about the cold weather the family experienced that winter. The Ingalls cabin was on the 4.8 million acre tract called Osage Diminished Reserve, which was not open to white settlement. Tensions between the Osages and settlers were strained at that time. In an effort to keep the peace, the government sent soldiers in February 1870. Although settlers were not required to move, the Ingalls family decided to leave their cabin in spring 1871 and return to Wisconsin. Wilder would write about an Osage leader who eventually persuaded the Osages to agree to cede the lands. The Ingalls lived in Wisconsin until 1874 when Laura was 7 and they moved near Plum Creek in Walnut Grove, Minnesota. A couple of years later, the family moved to Burr Oak, Iowa, and then in 1879 near DeSmet in Dakota Territory. Laura became a school teacher in DeSmet just before her 16th birthday. She married Almanzo Wilder August 25th, 1885, in DeSmet. Their daughter Rose was born December 5th, 1886, in DeSmet. Wilder shared with her daughter Rose her stories about growing up in different parts of the frontier with Laura as author. The two women worked together to begin publishing their stories. Little House in the Big Woods was the first in the series, published in 1831. Farmer Boy, published in 1933, covered Almanzo's childhood in New York. Little House on the Prairie, published in 1935, was about the family's experience in Kansas. Although Laura was too young to remember the details, she relied on the memories of her family. The settling for the book is about 15 miles southeast of Independence. Wilder's other books were On the Banks of Plum Creek, 1937, The Long Winter, 1940, Little Town on the Prairie, 1941, These Happy Golden Years, 1943. Several others were published posthumously by Rose. A network television series, Little House on the Prairie, 1974 to 1984, brought more fans to the Little House books set in their Walnut Grove, Minnesota home. The television series told the stories of Pa and Ma, Charles and Caroline Ingalls, and Laura, Mary, and Carrie. Almanzo died October 23rd, 1949, in Mansfield, Missouri. Laura died February 10th, 1957, also in Missouri. Rose Wilder Lane died October 30th, 1968, in Connecticut. The Little House series today is a multi-million-dollar franchise with books, television series, and merchandising. Hold on for a moment. Need a drink. Topeka tornado, 1966. The tornado sirens went off. The sky was a sickening greenish color, and it felt like something was wrong. I went in the old barrack apartment where we lived and turned on the TV. Bill Curtis stepped in front of the weatherman who was giving his regular report. Bill calmly explained a large tornado was on the ground and headed our way. The Honorable D. Keith Anderson recalled his warning of the Topeka tornado on June 8th, 1966. Like many Topekans, he and his family immediately sought shelter. Kansans were accustomed to the threat of tornadoes, but few strike populated areas. The magnitude of this storm was unprecedented in Topeka. Registered as a F5, the powerful storm traveled from the southwest of the city to the northeast, causing the deaths of 17 people and more than $104 million in damages. The tornado was on the ground for 34 minutes and a damaged area 21 miles long and 1/2 mile wide. Many people thought such a tornado would never hit Topeka due to the legend of Burnett's Mound. Legend claimed that the mound was sacred and protected Topeka from tornadoes. The mound didn't stop the storm. Crossing downtown Topeka, the storm punched a hole in the state capitol dome, destroyed the multi-story National Reserve building, and damaged a number of public and private offices. While many were devastated by the loss, some managed to find humor in the storm. Bob Anderson remembered what he did at the time of the storm. I could hear the sirens in the distance. I grabbed the cash box and locked up the bar. After about 30 minutes, I returned and unlocked the tavern. It was then that I discovered that we had inadvertently locked one of the patrons in the bar during the whole crisis. The guy didn't talk to me for months after that, but we noticed we had put a good dent in the Budweiser during his ordeal. The tornado caused massive damage across town and destroyed much of the Washburn campus. As a result, many students were forced to attend classes in trailers for the next few years. Charles Wright, mayor of Topeka at that time of the storm, recalled the impact. As Topeka's mayor when the tornado hit. I was also on the Board of Regents. 3 months before the tornado, the board reinsured every building on the Washburn campus for the maximum. So when the tornado swept away some of the building, Washburn had a nice insurance check. I worked closely with President Henderson to restore the campus and to secure mobile classrooms from the federal government. After the mobile classrooms were on site, I went to Washington. Dr. Henderson asked me to see if we could get air conditioning units in the mobile classroom. So this I is not me because I was only it was 2 days before I turned 4. So I met with former Florida Governor Ferris Bryant, head of the Office of Emergency Planning, OEP, today called FEMA. I thanked him for all the help his office had given and said that I had only one request. He said, "What's that, Mr. Mayor?" I said, "Sir, we need air conditioning units for the classrooms." Then he said, "Well, Mr. Mayor, you will just have to park them under the trees." To which I replied, "Sir, we had a tornado and don't have any trees, so we got the air conditioning units." The 1966 tornado changed the architectural landscape of Topeka and those who lived through the storm. The severity of the F5 tornado helped meteorologists understand more about violent storms. It stands as the seventh costliest tornado in nation's history. But you have to remember, it was just 2 days before I turned 4 in 1966. And that was the costliest to Topeka back then. So, but it is one of the costliest storms of 1966. And so, And since that's all I have, and there's a game on tonight right now. Let me see what the score is. The Chiefs 3, Bengals 0 right now. Let's see. And so have a magical evening and a great big beautiful tomorrow. Bye bye.